So, welcome to the World Tour of Meditation. So thrilled today to have with us Melissa Moody, who's joining us from Texas. And Melissa has healed trauma in her own body and runs a wellness center from Texas and helps so many other people today move through trauma and help them with their vision as well. Melissa is also really involved with syntonic optometry, and she'll tell us a little bit about that, and that involves the use of color. And finally, Melissa's also been featured on the documentary Happy. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you, Daksha. It's really a blessing to be involved. I think what you're doing is very important. So, very happy to be here.
Thank you, Melissa. Now, why do you think this is very important? This exploring what meditation really is and getting to the roots of that.
Right. Well, meditation for me is really that which brings an approach or an approachable access for a person to their inner peace, to the peace of the world, basically a communion with soul and spirit and others. And there's so many ways to do that. It's been an integral part of my healing, but I guess that a lot of the meditation I've done has not been traditional or what I would have, not transcendental meditation or much of what people hear about. And so there can be a limiting understanding to that term of meditation. And it's wonderful to explore other ways for us to connect to life, connect to ourselves, and to have communion, with more. And in that, the wonderful thing about it is that not only can our hearts heal, find inner peace, even in the midst of chaos or uncertainty or just what can be a crazy world. Definitely unpredictable, full of trauma, full of joy, but also our bodies can make remarkable progress in healing because we can pay attention to what's going on. And I think that meditation does involve an element of paying attention and at the same time letting go. And so those are wonderful topics that I really enjoy and have found and find very supportive for people.
Thanks, Melissa. I really want to ask you more about two things. The second one is about these different techniques and practices that you've used in your own life and that you help people with in that communion, in that healing of the heart, in that joining to themselves, really. But before going into that, I wondered if you could speak a little bit to the effects that you've seen in your life so that people can really understand what practical, tangible benefits, because you've experienced some pretty extraordinary things, right?
I really have. My story is quite dramatic. And it is a part of it is featured in the documentary Happy, so people can access that via iTunes or they can stream it online usually or through the happymovie.com. And it does have graphic photos in there of what I've been through. You can see I'm still a little disfigured here in my face, in the eye, but I was completely run over by a large truck, by a vehicle. And it went over my entire body from the thigh up my hip, up my spine, and went over my head and crushed my face in the limestone rocks. It actually happened out here in this beautiful place, which is now transcended into a healing center. So that's nice. But to have that energy change. But I actually had a near-death experience. My face was totally fractured and crushed where only the left eye orbit was not broken. I suffered a traumatic brain injury. Initially, they diagnosed me as moderate to severe. And then because my healing was quite rapid and phenomenal, they said, oh, maybe you're just mild to moderate. No, it was very, very, very serious, very difficult. I had all kinds of broken bones and musculoskeletal issues and soft tissue damage and chronic pain and vision problems. And I was really disabled completely for almost 10 years. And they actually, when I had a vocational evaluation through the Goodwill and the Texas Rehabilitation Commission, they told me that I was too disabled to work ever, probably. And that if I ever could work, maybe I could work part-time in an office. So it's wonderful to dispel that too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with the vision issues, I nearly went blind twice in this eye, and brought my vision back with support and all these different tools and techniques and supportive teachers to where I'm turning 69 this year. Hard to believe, but I am turning 69. I have an unrestricted driver's license, and I don't have reading glasses.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long ago
So
was that initial injury?
I was run over in 1992.
Okay. And
Yeah.
if I could ask you, like, as soon as that happened, like, what was going through you? Was it like, were you in, what were the emotions going through? I'm just thinking of other stories I've read or come across of when people are experiencing severe trauma and the sense of emotions in that space. And does the near death experience for you, did that happen there, or did like the practices that came and then supported you and helped you remarkably heal, did that come afterwards?
What, the near death experience?
Yeah.
That came initially. I mean, I died when the truck went over my lungs. That's when in the memory, I had traumatic amnesia, which is very common, where you don't remember anything initially. I was in shock, when I was conscious. I mean, I was in ICU and in a little tiny hospital here in the country for 5 days before they could stabilize me enough to transport me via ambulance to Houston, to the medical center, because they didn't know the extensive damage in my brain or anything like that. So, but so I would say emotions, if there were any, would have been shock, because everything is changed completely and utterly in an instant. And really bewilderment of what happened. And part of my process, because of my own personal dynamics and uh, different parts of the issues that were involved in what happened when the accident happened, I had to recover my memories. So part of my process was recovering the memories. And that was not easy. It was very scary, very difficult and in the process, I also recovered repressed memories of childhood sexual abuse. So I'm also had all of that to deal with, later. But really it was a gift in that, because I had been very dissociated and I wasn't aware of that. I was very highly functioning. I was a go-to, do everything mom kind of person and took care of everybody and very outgoing and involved in all kinds of things, but very dissociated. And holistic is being connected. So even though the process was very challenging, being connected is whole, and life is paradoxical in that we can't pretend uh, things don't exist or difficult things and challenges and pain, but how we respond to them, because it makes all the difference. And also at the same time, remembering and recognizing the joy and the beauty that's in life, because that's all around too, so I had a lot of emotions, but those were the main ones initially. And my near-death experience, though, was very interesting. It was a connection with, well, my experience was being enveloped. I would almost say cocooned, except it's inside, it's everywhere, in living, intelligent love. And then there were more details about that, but it's something that I wish I could say I always remembered in my healing process, but um, no, I really wanted to live because I had little children and I loved life, but mainly because of my kids. And then it was so difficult. It was very difficult. But today, and for many years, I have only gratitude that I'm alive and that I get to share the things that I've learned. And I never dreamed I would be as well as I am. And basically, people call me a miracle, but I've just worked on connecting and working with the processes of communion with life and myself, and all that entails grieving, loving, tears and joy. Mm-hmm.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
What
I'm not on any medication. I take no pain meds. I have my blood pressure's great. I'm very healthy.
do you really
And
believe that anyone can do that?
I have no idea how far anyone can go or whatever that means. Everyone's unique and individual. And that's been a very great part. Our own healing and listening to our body is unique, but I absolutely 100% believe that anyone can get better. Anyone can heal, and inside and out. To what degree, I don't know, but there's always room for improvement and there's always hope. There always is.
So, Melissa, what do we do to heal?
Yeah, well, it's individual, but for me, and it's interesting how I encourage people to um, listen to them, to what's going on, to their life, um, to their symptoms, if they're ill, or if it's a vision problem, whatever it is, to learn the language of what's happening. And it's usually multi-layered. And all those layers are important. And you'll get to them when you get to them, as long as you're willing and keep looking. And the metaphors in there are amazing, and those, for me, it's been very much learning how to interface with my body, because I was so dissociated and disconnected and totally unaware of it. I didn't know that. That's part of dissociation. You don't know that. But I was in so much pain,
Mm.
and I was very sensitive to pain medication. I couldn't tolerate a lot of things, which again was another gift, because my first experience with anything more than just the physical and allopathic medicine was my neuropsychiatrist saying, well, maybe why not go to a psychologist and look into self-hypnosis and see if that would help your pain. And I went, okay. So I did, and it did help. And then I was intrigued. What is this? So I started exploring about the trance state and the meditation state and what that meant, and realized that there's so many different doors into that space of healing. And I've had so many, I have so many stories that I could share that are just very interesting in the way my body has healed with somatic connections, psycho-emotional, physical connections. That there's that place deep, deep, deep within us where it's all blended, where it's all one, where it's undifferentiated, so to speak. And I think our true core self is greater than that, but the manifestation of who we are in our mind and our body and our eyes and all that comes, it's it's all connected. And so accessing, I did everything. People say, oh, just do one thing so it's helping you. I had so many problems. I used all the approaches. I did inner work, trauma work. I did interfacing with my body in meditation. I did learning how to move my body properly, with Mayor Schneider's work. I love his work. And learning how to use the body in balance and what that really means. People hear about it a lot, but basically we need space and connection so our bodies can heal. And with that is, and this is so important, is softening. I call Stephen Levine was the first person, and I think he came from a practice of Buddhism and he talked about his meditation work. He worked with, well, people can look him up, but he's no longer with us, but his work was so powerful and he was so compassionate. I first heard the words, the body can be a threshold for healing, from him. And learning to interface with my tissue, literally, with compassion, feeling, because today it's not uncommon to hear, even in the medical world, that emotions can be trapped in our tissue.
Yeah.
But it was very new, a long time ago. But that was a lot of his work, and how to connect with that, and softening on all levels, our heart and our body, so you can feel it. When you're upset or tense or angry, or your body contracts, what happens? Contraction constricts blood flow. It inhibits energy and fluid flow, and eventually impinges nerves where they're not going to work. Something's going to break down. And our life is so full of stressors, some that we're not even aware of. And vision, so many people have deteriorating vision just because of modern life stressors that they're not aware of, how they impact the various mechanisms of the eye. And so educating ourselves is very important, but softening so there's space in our heart as well as our body and eyes.
That's so beautiful. I love how you explain things. It's so beautiful. Thank you. It's such a gem just listening to you speak. There's such a fluidity to it.
And that word fluidity, really, that's such a key for healing. And my job, my privilege,
Yeah.
I would say, when people come here, is to support them in finding their own path, because every person has their own individual path. And this is true with meditation, with techniques and protocols. It's true with everything. And allowing, and not only allowing, but encouraging us all to find our own path and to know that that is what is unique and important for everything, for a happy life, for a successful life, for a healthy life. It's what finding your way, your path.
Well, how did someone go about finding their path? Like, I remember we had a brief discussion earlier around dogma and guidance.
Yeah. Well, again, dogma and guidance, yes. Dogma is full of rigidity. Dogma is set protocols, and that it's this is the way. And guidance is supporting someone to find their way and their path. And again, my body has been such a great teacher to me in helping me to, and I'm still learning, believe me. And everybody would agree with that. We're always learning, always healing. It's a life path. And all I can do is have a heart intention to continue that path. And so when anything happens in my life or in my body, or if I pay attention to that and say, well, what is here for me to learn? So that is one important aspect right there, is just to ask yourself questions. What do I like? What is important to me? What is my passion? What do I love? And some people know and some people don't know. And discovering that, in a safe way is very important.
Melissa, when you said at first that the path to healing and listening inwards is really individual, and you kind of pay attention to the things popping up in your consciousness about your relationship with your body. For example, is this what you mean? So recently I've been noticing this like ache in my chest, and I keep noticing that I'm really drawn to reading books on bookshelves or posts on Facebook about teeth and dental work. And I've noticed my eyes have been a bit strained. And I was making a vision board earlier this year. And I was just doing it subconsciously. I just opened up some magazines, pulled out pictures, pasted them on, and realized out of the blue, all the pictures, like 50% of them, were around the health of my heart. And I was kind of like, where on earth is that coming from? That's totally out of the blue for me. Is that kind of what you mean by paying attention? Like sort of these little subconscious clues that crop up, or is there more to it?
Absolutely. Paying attention to that is very important. Also, and to the sensations in your body. You said you were having pain or tightness in your chest.
Stickiness, like an empty heart.
And yeah, like an empty heart. Absolutely. And so for some, making those connections may be more difficult. It sounds like you have an affinity for that you pay attention and then listen to yourself. Some people may need some support in that. And um, one of the approaches that helped me so much was very intriguing, it helped me physically and emotionally, is called craniosacral therapy, because the therapist is actually following the very subtle ebb and flow and movement of the cerebral spinal fluid in the craniosacral system, which is a core system, but it's very subtle, and it can help you release various tension patterns and things like that. But it stops, that we call it a significant indicator. It actually comes to a still point when the client is talking about something significant. So for a person who's very dissociated or not in tune with themselves, if they want to, it's a very supportive way to learn to pay attention. You can get feedback that way. And that is the facilitator. We don't call ourselves therapists but it's a guide and a facilitator to support the person to explore more what's significant to them. As well, then there is a structural level to it too. So like I'm saying, multi-layers, where you help release tension patterns in the body, or create more space, or release restrictions that are in there too. So paying attention to the physical part of the body, and then paying attention to those little things that can bubble up when you ask yourself, or those little pulls in your heart, or the little drawings that you were talking about, that you're drawn to different books about things. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah. What is it that you practice today? What is it that how is it that you help people today?
Yeah, well, my practice is it's basically, I call it heartful healing, because whatever we're doing, whether we're working on the eyes or the body, or wanting to be more in tune with who we are, we need a heart of compassion for ourselves, and for our eyes, and for our body, and also honoring who we are and where we've come from, because we are who we are, where we are, for a reason. And what is that? Discovering that reason is so enlightening, to let go of things and move forward, or whatever it is. And so I have wonderful horses here too, that are part of the therapy team, because the horses are heart animals. They're emotional. They're these huge creatures, but they're so strong. but they're so gentle and they tune in. They are herbivores, they eat grass. They tune in to what's around them to know if it's safe or not. So they know people's emotions and where they are really, what they're really feeling, even better than some people do. And so people can uh, and horses are so non-judgmental and so present, which is also part of healing, being present in the moment. When we're full of anxiety, it's usually we're pulled in the past or worried about the future. What is happening right now? And in what is happening right now, what can we do to soften and to just to do no harm and to be loving for ourselves and others. And we all it's a learning process. But so my horses are here, and clients love to commune with them and talk to them. The animals actually are therapists in their own right. I am humbled by them and appalled at my own ignorance and arrogance in my life, of the processes of learning the incredible respect for all sentient creatures around us and how they connect with us and can help facilitate us, you know, to be one and to be more unified. But so they actually can move negative energy, communicate with people through feelings and imagery. It's fascinating, and they know what you need. I, I'm just in awe of them. So they're wonderful, and I do offer cranial sacral therapy to support people, and I also love to work with vision, any kind of visual conditions, any kind of pathology, or just people who want to improve their eyesight. If they're nearsighted or are reading glasses, presbyopia, or I've had a lot of people with glaucoma, very, very successful, very supportive in because that is a very multi-layered condition, but any vision condition really is, and there's always the emotional component to it. But modern life, as I was saying earlier, creates mechanical, structural stressors to the eyes that it's just like if you ran all day and didn't eat, your body would pay the price. So our bodies and our eyes pay the price of modern life, and we need to be better educated about it. We're so much better educated with the awareness and practice of healthy eating and yoga and exercise and inner work, but for some reason, learning about the eyes there's still a great deal of educational awareness that needs to be done. So thank you for letting me say something about the vision. Our vision, our eyes are part of the body. So of course we can take care of them just like we can the rest of us. But I also work with the body, but mainly people who come here. It's usually people who find me can relate to some part of my story and maybe get hope or courage. Maybe they've had traumatic brain injury. Maybe they've had other injuries or trauma or sexual abuse or other kind of abuse or vision issues. So those seem to be the majority of the people who come here. But anyone who wants to come is welcome.
I certainly hope a lot of, that sounds extraordinary, like
Mhm.
the range of.
And I do use color therapy, so I didn't mention that, the syntonic color therapy, yeah. And color is beautiful, and in meditation too.
Yeah.
We were talking about that communion with life and an avenue and access to inner peace
Mhm.
and peace with the world, and with others. There's so many different ways to do that, and I practice a lot of various ways. Music's wonderful, and touch and all of that, and aromatherapy, but color is just fabulous too. And I even have some of these. There's over 75 years of science behind the syntonic um, optometry, or there's the color therapy for vision. It was mainly for vision, but it's wonderful for everything. And I work with a lot of people with trauma that have had trauma in their life. And so the main colors that we use, are purples and blues and greens. And there's also a ruby color which is a red and a blue that can be very calming. But the main colors that I use, I have about 5 colors I use for myself. I take with me all the time are various shades or intensities of purples and greens with blue in the blue green. And they're very, very, very supportive for acute conditions,
Uh-huh.
neurological conditions, and for trauma, as well as vision. It all started with vision. Excuse me?
How could someone integrate color into their meditation practice or into their day-to-day life?
Right. Well, just putting the colors, which is light, it's just different frequencies of light, which is vibration, of course, on they'll feel. I mean, you can feel. It's a parasympathetic stimulator, so it's going to help bring balance into the brain, into the autonomic nervous system. You feel a calming, a sense of openness and well-being. So it's a wonderful support for open-eyed meditation.
Just wearing, and practice is just wearing these glasses with the color.
That's right. It's the color or the frequency of light that's entering through the optic nerve, which is the second cranial nerve. It's one of the 12 cranial nerves, directly into the brain and helping to bring balance into the autonomic nervous system or into the brain. It's very powerful.
I guess I mean, when you put it that way, I guess that's really like not that far, like that's quite similar to like listening to calming music and calming down, right? Because it's like things that get the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, and it's just how we take in stimulus.
Absolutely. And one of the advantages of these little glasses, they have the peripheral covered. I mean, you can use color therapy. There are all kinds of different ways to do it, but these that we use, the advantage of that is that it focuses the frequency to the optic nerve, which is a direct conduit into the brain. Touch, the skin, sound comes through, the ears and into the brain, but the optic nerve actually opens on the retina. And so it's like a direct access, just like they say the eyes are the window to the soul.
So it's even more direct than like listening to music or like getting a massage or like going to a forest and breathing.
Yeah, all of that is very important. Well, I think it is. I mean, yes, because there's a direct conduit into the brain. But all of those are important. Now, using your own sound, that's internal, so or whatever you may be using for sound, and vibration that way is also direct, I would think. But yeah, color is through the eyes is very powerful.
So tell us more about purple and blue and green and why they're so effective for the kinds of things you work with.
Well, they are that frequency of light. Now people hear about, oh, blue light is bad. It's a very small bandwidth of blue light that emanates from the computers or the phones that affects and again goes through the eyes into the brain and affects your melatonin or keeps you awake. It's a very small bandwidth, and most blues are very calming. And then the purple has a magenta color, which is an emotional stabilizer added into it. But green, I'm not the expert. There are many, many experts. I hope someday, maybe you will explore color more. But I I am not the expert in centonics or color therapy, but the greens are a balancing color, and the greens with the yellows are more stimulating. And then it goes from the yellows to the oranges to the reds. Those are all more stimulating. The greens to the blues then are more calming. And I usually work with people that are hypervigilant, PTSD and trauma and different things like this. So that's why I'm using and the blues. And also if you have any kind of an acute condition, or a neurological condition, the blues are very healing for that. And I use my blue-green glasses if I rarely get ill, but the other day I was thinking I was catching my grandkids. They've all had colds and the flu. I was thinking I didn't feel well, and I immediately used my blue-green glasses as well as my energy work, and took some vitamins, and I was fine. I didn't get sick.
What does
So
it mean? Is it sitting down or is it wearing it all day?
no, the protocol, the protocol is 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
I say there's been like 75 or more years of science behind this, but there are some within that. There's some that say 5 minutes a day will help, 5 to 10 minutes a day. You can break it up. I encourage people to wear them as much as they need to, because I see they experience an impact in their neurological system, especially for those who have anxiety or upset or of anything like that. If they will put the glasses on, they'll start noticing immediately a calming, and then this helps rewire the nervous system to let you know, no, it's okay, you can be calm. So they can use it as much as they want to.
And just to make sure we use this the right way, it is these specific glasses and frequencies, right? Like if I got like a little bit of red cellophane paper and stuck it to my glasses, that wouldn't be the same, would it?
I From my experience, my training, again, I'm not the expert. There are a lot of people out there that are going to promote different ways of using color. But yes, the science behind it has studied specific frequencies of light for initially, they were using color all the time and these different frequencies of light and combinations of frequencies to impact illness and disease, moods, and vision. But that changed. That was in the early 1900s, and it was stopped. But it was the vision scientists and the medical doctors were allowed to continue using light therapy. So there's science behind it for specific frequencies of light with that. And that's how I got into it, was to help my vision. But then they started, my teachers were talking about, so this was like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, 12 years ago, somewhere around there, about they had noticed impact with their clients who had traumatic brain injury or trauma. We measure a person's visual field, not just the white field that when you go to the eye doctor, they have you test your peripheral visual, but that's the white field. We measure color fields too, because those different frequencies are important. And they noticed that a lot of people with trauma of whether traumatic brain injury or abuse had compressed visual fields, the color fields. And so and whatever restrictions there were had been removed. Probably back in the 60s, a lot of color came back out in crystals and things like that. But so the scientists and the optometrists that I was studying with, they were documenting the importance in how using the color therapy helped with the traumatic brain injury and the abuse issues too. And then you can take the visual field tests again and see an expansion, which is fascinating. So gives a support to people who want tangible evidence that they're getting better. You know, some
Sure.
people need, some
Also
people.
really interesting, I think, from the perspective of understanding what, like, or sort of being able to conceptualize what happens to the body when we go through trauma, that like that the color field shrinks. I mean, that's quite a, to me, that's like a wow moment of, the
Yeah, it
body
is.
responds.
It is. It is. I mean, and trauma creates compression, contraction everywhere. Yeah. And again, I guess it comes out in the color fields because,
Mm.
the eyes are directly connected to the brain. So it's a very good way of measuring. But you can feel it. I had pain. I had so much pain. In 2001, I couldn't even hold a garden hose for more than 10 minutes without it being too much, and that was almost 10 years after I'd been run over. Today I'm turning 69. I carry 50-pound feed bags. Now, if I can get someone else to carry them, I will, but I can do it just fine. And I don't have any problems, and I have, and I can overdo it and, hurt my shoulders or what. I can get out of it too. You can educate yourself how to take care of the body, and that is what Mayer's work does with vision and the body, and that is what I do too. But I also work on the deeper issues. Mm-hmm.
That's really wonderful, Melissa. I feel like we've covered quite a spectrum from your own experience to what you said about softening, and
Mm-hmm.
that real softening, that connection, feeling into, and then from there to the color and the craniosacral, and just what really strikes me about everything we've covered is just the nature of exploration that comes into it, and the sense of like it's one person and their journey, and there are all these tools and support, and really it's about just softening into and allowing.
And that's so simple and so important. That is, I encourage people to pay attention to throughout the day. Tune into your body. Are you breathing through your belly? Are you breathing rapidly, or are you breathing at all? We tend to not breathe when we're too focused. Is there tension in your neck or your shoulders? And to let go, to pay attention, because so we're taught, not as much anymore, perhaps, but grit your teeth and bear it. You'll end up with TMJ, you'll end up with neck problems. To be tough, and you've got to be tough. Well, if you are hard or tough that way, you're going to have poor circulation, which will impact you'll give you pain. You'll end up with neck, shoulder, back, whatever issues. Too much contraction, you're going to have less space in the joints, and you'll end up with joint replacement. And I mean, it just goes on and on, or sciatica, impingement there. So softening, greater strength is walking in softness and compassion.
That sounds like the most beautiful explanation of meditation that I've heard. Greater strength is walking in softness and compassion. Thank you, Melissa. Do you have
Well,
anything
thank
to
you so
share
much.
with us in terms of how people can connect with you or what you might be offering?
Sure. Well, I have a beautiful place here in Central Texas that's it's full of live oak trees, and we have horses, 100 acres. It's beautiful. I invite anyone to come. You can learn more about me at my website, which is inspiringselfhealing.com. And yes, for anyone who is interested and wants to learn more, I have a free booklet I would love to give people. And if they do want to come and work with me, I would like to give them some free therapy time in addition, to work something out where they can have some extra time as a thank you for listening to this wonderful summit that you're putting on. And I would just like to say that I really am very happy about this. And I'll just end with an experience I recently had, very generally. But I had a client who was very interested in meditation and had been working very hard in a certain practice of meditation that had been very successful and supportive for other family members and for people in the community, but didn't work for this person. In fact, was creating physical trauma. I mean, headaches and anxiety. And the sad thing was that the information and message that this person got was that there's something wrong with you, because this should be working. This is the right way to meditate.
Mm.
But it didn't work, for this person. And there's so many ways. And so this person then finding to let go of the anxiety and to be healthy and centered and courageous in this person's own path, needed to find his or her way of meditating where he felt peace, she felt peace and communion with life. And there's so many different ways. So thank you for this world tour of meditation. And again, yes, if anyone wants to find me, they can also just Google me, Melissa Moody, or I'll come up with the happy movie, or on the internet. That is a nice thing today. Yeah.
Melissa, thank you so much. It's been very inspiring and touching to have you here. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing that last story about meditation practice, when done without the softening, can actually possibly lead to more anxiety and more of everything that you don't really want in your life. And that it's really about finding your path.
Yes, and I think it's what you were saying in the beginning, dogma versus guidance, or dogma versus discovering your own path.
Mm.
And I just learned that the more I learn, the more I don't know. And I'm here just to keep learning and to be connected and in the awe and wonder of life.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful speaking with you.
Bye-bye.